actually, I'm sorry. No, we're actually going to a round of 8 match. My
Oh,
bad.
okay.
I was
All
totally not paying attention. So it's going to be a round of 8 match between LRM TechnicS and Must, who I believe is in team IFU.
Yeah.
But I'm not
No.
sure.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. Sweet. So give me just a second.
Oh, by the way, while you're doing all the very necessary messing around stuff, I'd like to, in between everything, just thank the sponsors once again. The sponsors for this are, of course, Razer and Twitch TV. Both of them doing a lovely job of supporting the Brood War scene. So big thanks to them, and going to make this a tournament to remember for them, for you guys, for Brood War in general. It's going to be awesome stuff. So big thanks to them for making this possible, and thanks to Team Liquid as well for kind of laying the whole thing on.
Indeed, huge thanks to all those guys. And we are almost ready here. Alright, so if we just have a quick look at the map and the matchup, as you can see, it is LRM TechnicS versus R Must. I've actually added the races and brackets now, so if anyone joins in the middle of the game or is confused, you can see it's going to be a ZVP with game number 1 on Jade. Now, since this is a round of 8 match, it is in fact a best of 3 and not a best of 1. But depending on the length of this match and depending on how long the round of 4, the semifinal matches take, we may or may not do the rest of the games in the series, or we might just go straight to the semifinals. So just keep that in mind. We just want to watch some awesome games while we wait for the semifinals.
Yep,
cool.
Indeed.
So let us go into the game. Alright, and oh, looks like we have an old school observer here in the game. That's right, before OBS maps were invented, before any of that nonsense, you had to have a third player in the game as a Terran to lift off his CC. And occasionally, if you invited a jerk into the game, he would actually make ghosts and nuke all your stuff.
That actually happened to me once. I was playing a game, and I was so noob at this point. I didn't really know what happened. And in the middle of the map, I suddenly found a whole load of like barracks and factories and stuff. And I was like, what on earth is... And I started killing them. And then the observers started having a crack at me, and I was like, well, I don't know what's happening, do I? I've only been playing for 5 minutes.
Poor Elegant. Poor Elegant.
No, I know. I was very innocent back then.
Yeah, naive little Brood War player. Anyway, as you can see, TechnicS looks like wearing his Bulgaria tag, represent. Is going to be the blue Zerk here at the top right, and Must, aka LancerX, looks like he's actually using his LancerX ID here in the game, so I'll actually just switch it to that. He will be the Teal Protoss here in the bottom right. Once again, the map is Jade. How do you like this map, Elegant?
How do I like this map? I personally quite enjoy it. I mean, I think it allows for a fair amount of creative play because I'm not sure if you guys can see the map right now, but there's a kind of interesting ramp set up to your natural third base outside your main, which kind of leads to some quirky builds, both in terms of expansion and both in terms of breaking those expansions. So you can see some pretty action-packed games there, depending on what players decide to go for. But I think it leads to some pretty cool situations. And it brings out the creative side in players, which is always kind of the best thing about any map, I think.
I would agree with you there. And speaking of creative, TechnicS has actually gone for a pool and a gas already. Was this a 9 pool? I think it was.
Yeah.
So this pool's about to finish. Luckily for Must, he's actually scouted this already. scouting first on the 4-player map. Notice that he actually didn't go straight here. If you look at the minimap, the path the probe took, he actually went to the 6 o'clock first. He didn't see an overlord coming from that direction, so he assumed his opponent wasn't there and actually went to the top right instead. So a very clever little scouting trick right there, and you can see he's immediately building 2 cannons. He is just going for a forge fast expand. It's a very standard build that's also made its way into StarCraft 2 as well, so so nobody should be too surprised about this, I hope. Meanwhile, actually, is he... Okay, no, he's already started speed, so you can see that TechnicS has mined just enough gas, 104 gas, but he only needs 100 to research Zergling's speed. So he's going to go for some early Zergling shenanigans, and even if he doesn't do like a ton of damage, even if he doesn't kill his opponent, he's already forced 3 cannons, which is more than Protoss wants, and he can also use those speedings to deny any scouting. So basically, the Protoss is going to be in the dark until he can get a Corsair scout out.
Yeah, which I think is great. It's such an important aspect of playing Zerg, just denying that scout over and over, because damn, it is frustrating as a Protoss player to have that happen. He's going to know that there's a link speed, but he's not going to know anything beyond that. He sees the expansion go down. And I think the 3 cannons is entirely sensible. I mean, defending against any kind of Ling run by, you can just about do it with probes and maybe a Zealot block if you're very, very good, but 3 cannons is always by far the preferable. Going to be throwing down a gateway as well, just to make that more of a complete wall in, so should only have a small gap in the middle of that, making it quite defensible as well.
Indeed, although it looks like, I don't know, his wall is a bit funky here. Jade is slightly difficult to wall in the top left and bottom right positions, but actually if you're in the top right and bottom left positions, oh, hold that thought, looks like it's going to be a Ling run by here. A lot of speedings with 2 probes blocking the ramp here. The Lings are trying to get by, but a 3rd probe comes up here. How many Lings are going to get in? It looks like 2 Lings, 3 Lings are now out of range of the cannon, so 3 speedlings are going to get into the main base, and this is going to be a huge problem for the Protoss. 3 speedlings might not seem like a lot, but these, if well microed, can actually survive forever. These are literally immortal right now. And they're not like the clunky crab immortals. These are seriously awesome immortals. These are like the immortals from 300.
Yeah.
These guys are just going to kill everything in this base.
Yeah, their immortality does of course depend entirely on the micro of the Zerg player, but TechnicS is going to be microing this all day long, managing to grab himself 1 probe right there already. Definitely be going back for more and more as this goes on. And Wallace just has to be so on it with his micro right now, but he's not quite as on it as he could be. 1, 2 probes going down so far, and maybe a 3rd to come soon as well. Yep, there you go. There goes 3. I mean, this just starts to get so frustrating. He's got to sacrifice so much mining time to get rid of this. He did block well on the ramp, but it didn't really do its job completely. We do have TechnicS throwing down a 3rd base at the same time as well, while Wallace is still just trying to get his economy off the ground with those 3 Lings making their presence felt.
Oh man, this is so painful. At least he does have a 2nd Nexus up, and he does have a Zealot now to help chase around these Lings. But, I mean, a slow Zealot compared to speedlings, that's just never going to catch them. And oh my god, this is so painful. I mean, I wonder if he should just, like, transfer everything to natural and kind of hide behind the cannons there until he can actually clean up these Zerglings. I mean, this is just really not worth it. I mean, if you notice, even when the Lings aren't killing probes, the probes are being forced to stack onto single mineral patches, which is really slowing down their mining a lot as well. And oh, looks like we might grab a Zergling here! Attack it! Kill it! No! Doesn't get it.
You gotta be so fast with your probe pulling in order to actually get rid of these Zerglings to any decent extent. Oh, not even managing to get a hit. It's so weird when the Zealots kind of do that. They do kind of a fake hit. They make the noise and everything, but nothing actually happens, which is brilliant. So he's still microing those 3 Lings around, and this is exactly what Sale meant when he said immortal, because TechnicS has just been right on it with his micro, all the while managing to multitask his main and his 3rd base going as well. A couple of idle drones is natural, but I'm sure he'll rectify that quite quickly. But with these Zealots, Wallace should be able to put himself in place to at least limit the damage, finally getting one of those Lings, and it's taken him a while, but his natural's now getting moderately well saturated as well, so he can finally actually start to progress and get his cybernetic score up and running, but oh my god, is that late.
Yeah, and if you notice, the Zerg's lair is almost finished, and one thing that's really good about TechnicS is he's not just microing the Zerglings around. Like, he's still macroing, he's established his 3rd base, he's still building drones. You know, a lot of players get caught up in all the fancy micro, and, you know, they go up in minerals, they get, like, you know, 3,000 minerals, and actually their advantage just goes away because they're not actually macroing behind it. The TechnicS, he's keeping his money low, he's building everything that he needs to, he's keeping his tech going. You can see the Spire's already started here. So yeah, he's in a wonderful position now. Now, Must actually sent out a single Zealot here to try and do some harassment. I like the idea behind this move, but I think it was a little bit late, and as you can see, TechnicS has already responded with Zergling, so this is actually, it's not going to do any damage now, but I still think it was a good idea by Must to try and do that, to just try and get some counterattacking in, to not just be the one defending all the time.
Yeah, sorry, I realized I just kept saying Wallace right there. I'm getting confused. I keep saying the observer's name rather than the actual player's name, which is kind of my bad. So I'll just try and remember that it's actually Must and not Wallace from now on. That's probably what I got to do. So we have, yeah, the first target going down. I kind of half expected to see a second one as well. You often... a player in this situation will often go for a more extreme build in order to just try and grab some kind of advantage for something unexpected or something different. But nothing of the kind happening right here from Must. Just going to go straight up. Stargate, Citadel, and presumably go to some kind of DT tech as well. But I'm never quite sure about this kind of play from behind, standard play from behind, and I don't like it. Although it looks like he is going to be a speed zealot timing, so maybe we'll see something funky actually play off with that.
Indeed, speed zealots with +1 air weapons, and I do agree with you about, you know, playing from behind, just playing standard builds from behind is generally a bad idea. But another thing to note is that a lot of times in these situations, you don't actually know exactly how far behind you are, or whether you actually are that far behind.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the opening game was just so crazy. I mean, of course he did lose a lot of probes, but keep in mind also that when you open 9 pool speed as a Zerg, you are cutting a lot of economy in the early game to get those speedlings out. You know, not only the lings that you made instead of drones, but also getting that gas early on, you know, and of course the early pool. So it's actually oftentimes very difficult to tell in these situations unless you're an extremely experienced player exactly where you stand. But looks like he is going to see the mutas coming in, and not a moment too soon either. The second cannon is just now warping in. I think it will be done in time before the rest of the mutas come in. Actually, it looks like they're just coming in one by one here. So 3 mutas really not that big of a threat. With 2 cannons there and that 1 Corsair, he's going to be just fine here. And actually, LancerX is now going to be very, very happy that he's gotten this +1. I think we should probably call him Lancer since that's what's what's in the overlay. I think if
probably should.
Must, people might get a bit confused.
Yeah, I'm just saying all the wrong names today.
Yeah, well, no, I was saying Must a lot as well. These guys just have so many ridiculous AKAs. Having said that, at least they don't have like those Korean names that are just a bunch of random letters.
I wouldn't even
then we
bother.
just wouldn't know what to say. Yeah.
But, just say the Protoss is.
But yeah, I think LancerX is going to be pretty happy that he's gone for +1 Corsair, seeing his going to go for mutas. This is basically a direct counter to what the Zerg is doing.
I mean, this is weird that he hasn't got a cannon yet. That cannon is so incredibly late, it's natural. He's known the mutas around for ages, but that cannon should have been happening a while ago. 3 Corsairs might just be enough to see off these mutas, but he's losing an absolute ton of probes right there in his natural. The cannon is finally done, so now the mutas will be beaten back, but they can still harass in there. I mean, they don't need to be deterred completely, so it's... before he's got too many Corsairs, I think the Zerg still has a little bit of an opening there to work with, because that's actually quite a lot of mutalist right there. So, yeah, weird little bit of mistiming with his cannon. I don't know quite what he was doing with that. Very strange. Got plenty of zealots though.
There's some interesting things going on. So Zerg has actually just taken his 4th at the top left. But more importantly, I noticed he's actually upgrading Carapace and melee attack from his evolution chambers. Now, usually what that means is that he's actually focusing more on a late game mindset. So basically the way ZVP usually works is if you aim for a bigger like mid game tier 2 army, which is Hydras and Lurkers, you go for the range attack upgrade. Whereas in a late game, once you're going for, you know, Ultra Ling Defiler, that kind of thing, then you go for the melee upgrades. You're kind of just thinking that you'll play a little bit more defensive here in the mid game, and then you'll have an uber late game army with Ultra Ling that's very difficult for Protoss to deal with. However, having said that, he hasn't got his Queen's Nest yet to get his hive started, so I'm a little bit confused here about his game plan here. He's kind of sending mixed signals here. It's like I'm on a first date or something. But yeah, I'm not too sure what that's about.
Oh god, those are the worst. Hate first dates. But yeah, we're getting some weird stuff happening here from TechnicS. I think he's just going to really try and take this in the mid game. I mean, he is showing no signs of moving onwards and upwards in terms of his tech. He's just kind of building a huge cloud of ground army, which I can entirely see why. And he's got his 4th base up now. He's not really doing anything with it, but I'm sure he will momentarily. And he's got such a huge force, he's going to be able to easily deny the Protoss' 3rd for some time, and that's a real clincher, because sometimes the entire game can go on and the Protoss is unable to take a 3rd for the entire time, which of course, needless to say, is very, very damaging. So that might be the kind of thing he's going for right here.
Oh man, Storm is not done yet. That's a lot of Hydralisks. He needs to pull back, I think. He doesn't have Storm. He needs Storm to finish. He's got 2 High Templar back there, but he's got no Storm. Oh man, what are you doing? You gotta run away, man. If those High Templar get slide before they have Storm, oh, it's gonna be so bad. It looks like he actually might have enough speed lots to push these back, but that is such a huge waste. There's Storm just finishing as the engagement is over, but actually, it looks like I underestimated the power of the man lot here. The Zealots are just pushing everything back here. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, the Zealots are crazy. Losing a lot of the Corsairs, though. Lost all but one of his Corsairs. But yeah, those Zealots are intense, especially when they're fighting from the high ground, because the Hydras were shooting uphill that entire time, which means they're going to be significantly less effective. So their numbers are effectively cut into, what is it, 2/3 of what they actually seem to be because of the low ground disadvantage. But I mean, though it wasn't the best engagement for TechnicS right there, he was able to whittle away at the Protestants army and get his top left-hand corner base established a little bit better as well. I still don't think he's quite got the forces to finish off these Zealots right here, and indeed he is losing quite a lot of his Hydras, needs to pull back. Even despite his +1 armor right there, they're still dropping like flies, but I think he's been able to take the bulk out of this Zealot force right now and should be able to defend fairly comfortably, but it's going to be all about that third base right now. Can the Protestants get a third base up before it's too late and before the Zerg resurges?
Oh man, I love watching Zealots just pulverize things, but yeah, as you said, this third base, I mean, he's just once again trying to reestablish it, but the Zerg's fourth is already mining, so Protoss definitely on the back foot here. Generally, in ZVP, Zerg should be one base ahead of the Protoss, and that's usually considered about even, but in this case, the Zerg is up 2 bases, which is really not ideal. But, I mean, I want to go back to a point I made earlier about getting ranged weapons versus melee weapons. As you can see here, these Hydralisks, they have no attack upgrade, they have the Carapace upgrade, and Zerg is already getting +2 melee, so even though he's built a billion Hydralisks right now, he's still showing that he's thinking more about the super late game where he's going to switch into that melee heavy composition rather than actually end the game here. So he's being super aggressive, but still kind of going for that late game play, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of waiting for his window in a way. He's waiting until he feels safe enough to start that transition, which I think he could do now, but it all depends on whether he wants to continue hammering away at that third. I mean, he might just be able to keep pressuring that. Protoss doesn't have a huge army right now. We have 3 High Templar only, which a couple of bad storms, that's all over. And he's making one of them into an Archon, is he? No, not quite. But yeah, I think he could afford to keep pressuring, and right now that looks like exactly what he's doing. March across the middle of the map, he's able to catch a bunch of speedlots right there and take a decent amount of health off them right away. Although I think that ramp's a little bit too hard for him to push, so he's at least going to be able to establish a strong position right here.
Yeah, now I think the Robo should be finished now, but he's going to sacrifice High Templar. Oh, completely wasted. He's making some cannons up here because he knows his observers aren't going to be in time here. Will TechnicS be able to push up this ramp? I don't know. It's going to be very, very close here. The storms are going to be critical. Huge storm on the Hydralisk. He needs one more. Looks like he doesn't have it. He's making an Archon instead, but the cannons do warp in, and I think he will be able to hold here. He critically needs to hold this point. This is the point that gives access. No, it looks like the Hydras are going to take it down. The Zealots are coming in. It's so close. But if the Protoss loses control of this point, his third is going to be completely vulnerable from the back. He's got cannons covering the top access ramp there, but he's not covering the backside. He's got to hold this ramp, and it looks like this time he might be able to do it. He needs the observer, though. Where is the observer?
I've literally no idea. There's an observer on the way. He doesn't have any. These are really, really late observers. One cannon is coming in. I think he's just done enough because the way the Zerg lost so many units, he couldn't have even pushed up with his lurkers. But here we have a strike force of Bling's going to come in and try and take down that one cannon. I don't think they're going to be enough though, and observers are going to be popping out momentarily. So it looks like we just about have safety for the moment for LancerX, and he will probably be able to start transferring over to that third base. A couple of stray overlords heading into a little bit of cannon fire right there, a little bit mysteriously. But yes, here we have finally LancerX being able to push down, and actually TechnicS could lose quite a lot of units right here. He's going to lose all of those lurkers, and this could actually work out pretty well for LancerX.
Oh man, pretty well indeed. And I was just looking at his main. Oh, hold up, thought some more lurkers coming in here. I think Protoss might be pushed back once again. Yeah, looks like Lancer is going to be forced back up the ramp, and looks like Lancer might be the one who's... No, does he have enough? He's got a bunch of DTs. Oh, this is a very good move here. If he can pick off that Overlord, there's nothing to detect the DTs for the Zerg. Now the Zerg is the one that has no detection. These DTs are just going to be able to freely kill every single lurker. The question is TechnicS paying attention? Yes, TechnicS does notice. No, wait, he's running the wrong way. He's moving up. He doesn't realize his DT's attacking that he can't see. He's going to lose every single lurker for almost nothing here. Oh man, great move by Lancer to make those 3 DTs, get all those lurkers for free, turning the tables on the Zerg. You want undetectable units, I can make them too, and mine are actually better, baby. I've got Dark Templars. You don't try to mess with Protoss and cloaked units.
No, exactly. Dark Templar are just too sick. The Overlords are coming in now, and unfortunately, because LancerX lost pretty much his entire Corsair fleet, he's going to be unable to see those Overlords away. But I think he might just be able to build up enough units to be able to defend at the top of that ramp properly. I don't know though. He has literally not a single High Templar on the map. which is a pretty major factor. There are those 3DTs heading over to the left-hand side of the map, so I wonder if they're going to be able to at least pick off that left-hand side third base location. But TechnicS is getting pretty terrifyingly big right now, and having a look at his tech situation, he has finally made the transition to Hive. So in the not-too-distant future, we're going to see Defilers out, and we may even see Ultralists quite soon as well, because he is, of course, mining off a huge number of gases. We've got him mining currently off 5 gas. So LancerX needs to start making things happen. He has got his third base established, but that's only part of the comeback process.
And see, this is the really scary thing, is that while all this has been going on, you know, it's been like, oh my god, the Protoss is barely holding, you know, can he hold off the army? That Hydralisk army and Lurker army wasn't even the army that TechnicS was really concerned about. That was just a throwaway army. What he's really thinking is this late game Ultra Ling, and he's even getting a Greater Spire. What on earth, TechnicS? TechnicS is going crazy right now, but now we can see now these upgrades are really going to come into their own. It's 2-2 already on the Cracklings. The Adrenal Glands is going to finish very, very shortly. So those Zerglings, just by themselves, are going to be absolutely deadly to the Protoss. And I'm just looking around for those DTs that ran around. Looks like one of them's still alive here, but the other two did actually get picked off.
They tried to make it into the top left-hand corner main and got screwed over.
I see. What is this group of Dragoons doing? Do you see this group of Dragoons?
I have no... That's got to be a mistake. If they get caught by Cracklings, and they're all going to die. And that's really, really expensive. Is he scouting with a group of Dragoons? That is the most daring scout party I've ever seen in my life.
They're just wandering around. Maybe he didn't actually tell them to do anything. Maybe this is just like Dragoon AI on the next level. It's actually taking the initiative now, and it's just wandering out on its own. Look, he's just going around with his Dragoons. What is he doing?
That's purpose. That's deliberate right there.
Oh,
okay, very
it's a distraction. He's got a shuttle going to the natural, but there's mutas there already, and TechnicS sees it. Is he gonna get the storm drop up? Storm! Oh man, he gets a few drones. He storms the mutas, but none of the mutas actually goes down. It does take 2 mutas, and he probably makes them into guardians. When these guardians finish, they'll actually all gain full health again. So, wow, interesting moves there by LancerX.
Those guardians are going to be scary because they can actually bust him straight in to LancerX's third right here, because of course they can sit out of range of cannons and they can just kind of siege them down. And so LancerX needs to be aware of that, although of course he's not going to be. He doesn't have a single Corsair on the map as far as I can see. He might see them on the way over because he's got an observer hanging around near the Zerg's natural expansion, but to be honest, I don't quite know what he can do about this, because of course TechnicS is sporting a massive army right now, whereas LancerX's is relatively small. However, he is starting to push out, so maybe he's actually got some fight left in him.
I don't know, this could be the last hurrah for the Protoss. He's going to catch a random Guardian there, but I mean, as you can see, TechnicS is at max supply now, 200 out of 200, whereas LancerX is just barely reaching 160 right now. Generally, the Protoss is the one that needs to be about, 30 supply ahead or so by this point, and to basically be even with the Zerg, because the Zerg's late game potential is just so ridiculously scary. Now that TechnicS has basically got his 6 bases all up and running, he's got plenty of production capability, he's got a million hatcheries all over the place, he's got all his tech, he's got his Ultralisk tech, he's got Guardian tech, he's going to be pumping out units in ridiculously fast here. So even if LancerX can get a good engagement and kill one Zerg army, there's going to be 3 more armies just waiting for him, waiting in those larvae.
Yeah, and now it looks like LancerX is going to be going for the attack. He can actually do this quite well if he has nice storms, and landing one nice storm straight away on a bunch of Lings means that he cleans them up quite quickly. But look at the forces collecting once again for TechnicS. He's got a Queen in the mix as well. I'm not quite sure if he's planning to do anything with it. There's some decent storms going down. However, he is losing quite a lot of his Zealots, which means that those Dragoons are going to have no cushioning in front of them whatsoever. It looks like, though, LancerX is going to take the battle. I'm not quite sure what the future holds for him. However, TechnicS is going to start pouring more units in any second now. He's got an entire control group of Overlords. I don't know if that's the best idea, but a whole bunch more Hydralisks as well, and some Lings to push the last of this Protoss army back. Although it's proving surprisingly resilient, actually, LancerX is going to continue to take the battle, and it's going to seal the deal right there. But I think TechnicS just has the power to reinforce en masse. He's morphing a whole load more Cracklings at his top left-hand corner, and the first Ultralists are now going to be making themselves known. And those fleshy, weak Dragoons are going to be slowly but surely picked off. No protection left for them whatsoever, and LancerX's army is toast.
Oh man, and what looked like a close victory turns into a massacre, and GG FAS FDS ASG fucking dude. Yes, that's right. So, TechnicS will take the game, but of course that was just the first game in a best of 3 in the round of 8. I'm not sure if we're going to do the other 2 games. Let me have a quick gander, see if the referees have given us any more replays, and also correct my posture for my nerd slouch. It's quite interesting, guys. Look,
unfortunate.
when I go into like nerd slouch casting mode, I basically like disappear off the screen. I'm basically like burrowing right now. I'm like a zergling. And then I can burrow. There we go. All right, cool.
I have a similar kind of problem, although my problem is caused by my chair. I say this every time I cast, basically, but I have this chair which sometimes just sinks of its own accord. It's one of those fancy chairs where you have the thing on the side which can make it go up and down, but it mainly just goes down when I don't want it to. And so sometimes I start kind of disappearing off camera. And it's the worst when I'm playing as well, because I can't stop and ping my chair back up. So I'm just sinking underneath my desk. He's still trying to play the game. It's
like in the middle of the game, you're like trying to micro your dragoons, and your chair's just slowly going down, and like the table's getting higher, and you can't reach your mouse anymore.
I'm not even joking.
God, the dragoons.
Yeah, that actually happens. And because I stream often as well, I start disappearing off camera just the same, which is undignified to say the least.
All right, so it looks like we are going to do the rest of the series. So let me quickly grab the second game.
Lovely. That was good stuff. I'm keen to see the follow-up from that. Keen to see if LancerX can get his mental game in check. He seemed pretty upset by the result of that game, but TechnicS just looked so good.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, he is Russian. That could have just meant, you know, GG, well played, sir, in Russian. You never know.
It could, but that's just a theory.
It is a theory indeed. Anyway, so the